500 and growing.
Podcast.
Dedicated to the underdog, cause I see you. Working on your craft, getting strong, cause I see you. Ready to set it off and on, cause I see you. Correcting all that is wrong, cause I see you. Cause I see you.
All right. So, welcome to the 500 and Growing podcast. We have Armando Pérez. He's a super dope musician. He's a super dope person. He gives the biggest hugs. He probably has a record on the longest hug at the party, where you're just like, damn, he's really hugging me for a real long time. But it's beautiful. It's beautiful because he means it. And so now you know whenever you see him at a party, you got to give him the big hug, and you know you're going to be there for a little while, so you might as well enjoy it.
You got no choice. You got no choice. I got you.
Armando Pérez and I, we probably met in the 2000s. My wife, girlfriend then, was part of a circle that Armando was part of, and so we kind of intersected. I was emceeing, producing, doing a whole bunch of hip hop stuff, and he had a couple of bands. One band that I didn't fully appreciate because I didn't know about it, called Frequency Below.
Ooh.
And then Lovers in Arms.
Ooh.
Then now ESSO, Afrojam Funkbeat band.
Ooh.
Which is the dopest, man. Like, I really enjoy those shows a little bit more than I did Lovers in Arms, because this one makes you dance. Like, you have dance music. And so, you know, one of my previous guests was Tyson, DJ New Life,
cool.
right?
Yeah, New Life, man. That's the homie, man.
Yeah, and
Love
so yeah, like I go to his sets and I just dance. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what I'm there to do. So it's like I'm not there to socialize. I'm not there to talk. When he puts that jam on, you got to hit the floor, right? And so ESSO, Afrojam, Funkbeat definitely does that. Everybody that's out in the virtual world, welcome Armando Pérez from ESSO, Afrojam Funkbeat, and Sounds Event Chicago.
Yo. What's up, y'all? Good to be here. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you. It's great to be here.
The podcast is really about being vulnerable. It's about how you found your life's mission.
Yeah.
And what those difficult decisions were like, right?
Yeah.
Because for me, I became a teacher, and there's a sense of like, maybe I became a teacher, an art teacher, because I was really scared to like put myself out there and like be 100% an artist and just dive off of that diving board and figure out what was going to happen later. And so I admire people who did it. You know what I'm saying? Because it took a lot of courage. It takes a lot of courage to be able to do that. And what life choices you needed to make? What were the hard choices? Whether it be like personal, whether it be financial, right? Whatever it might be that made you the dope person that you are today, and the person that's fully dedicated in what you do and made you a specialist in being a band manager, leader, and musician. So the first question is, what was it like growing up? What was your childhood like?
Man, childhood was interesting, man. You know, growing up in Chicago, 6 or 7 kids, right, man? So I saw 3 older brothers do their thing, 2 older sisters, and then later on a little sister. So that's a lot of family, you know, first generation American. So, you know, we had the whole, you know, you speak to your parents in Spanish, you know, and when school gets out, you go to Mexico, you know, and you visit family out there and your grandparents and all. And it's kind of a tale of two worlds, not 2 cities, 2 worlds, because it was Chicago and then it was El Pueblo, Tlaltenango, and it was like farm life, you know what I mean? Small town. And so you're raising animals, you know, and then you come back to the city and it's, you know, school and after school at the park. And it really was learning to navigate your own emotions in such a vast sort of interpersonal life of big families, you know, for me. And I think coming later in the line, now that I think of it, now that I'm being asked this question, I think I analyzed a lot of my older brothers and sisters their behavior, my aunts and uncles, my parents, school teachers, and just friends. You know what I mean? Even in grade school, it was very multicultural. I had a friend of every nationality, and it was amazing. You know, my first best friend was Korean, you know, and then I had a African American, and a Polish friend, and a Puerto Rican friend, and other Mexican friends, and I had white friends. It didn't matter, man. We were just hanging, you know, and so I feel like my childhood was very diverse, like from the jump. And I think I did realize how important, you know, emotions were, because I was kind of a shy kid, you know. But when I was comfortable around my friends, there was, you know, I think a little bit of the joker came out, a little bit of the entertainer came out. Also being later in the family, like, you know, I was always, you know, entertaining my brothers and sisters too, you know. So that's what life was like growing up, man. I think I saw perhaps some of the mistakes the older kids made, so I learned from that. So I was kind of on the straight and narrow, you know what I mean?
When you were a little kid, what years were those? And then where were you growing up in Chicago?
So basically the area of Belmont Cragen. We moved there when I was 5. Prior to that, we were like west of Ukrainian Village, right? Like Pulaski in Chicago. That's where I grew up, right? I was born at St. Mary's, right there on Western and Division. And so when I was 5, we moved to that neighborhood of Belmont Cragen. And yeah, that's where my upbringing happened, and I got all those friends, right? But I think the golden age is split, because I kind of have 2 upbringings, one being in Mexico. Yeah. And I had like kind of a storybook life on the farm with my cousin, because he was 1 year older than me. So he was showing me around. It was crazy.
This was in the summers, right?
The summers, yeah. Okay. Every summer we would go out there, spend however long, month or 2, and then come back home. And it's like, whoa, I have to go to this school and speak English and learn how to read and write, you know, that sort of thing. But I would say maybe the tail end, I was just playing sports as a kid, and the tail end of grade school was another golden age, because I found music, you know. I was really interested in making my own mixtapes. You know, you get a little a tape player, and you're recording like the songs off of B96, and then you stop it before the announcer, and then and then he announces the next song, and he's already mixing the song, and he's still talking. So you're waiting until he's done talking so you could record the song again. So I was making like filling tapes up with songs, and
the pause stop tapes.
You know it, yeah. So I think I got like one of those tape recorders when I was like in 5th grade. You know what I mean? And I was recording my tapes, and my brothers and sisters were handing me down their tapes. They were like listening to like new wave at the time, like Depeche Mode and The Cure, you know. And I'm in like
Erasure.
I'm like in 6th grade, like New Order. What's this? You know? And so I was listening to stuff that even, you know, my buddies were not listening to, because they were listening to B96 and you know, all that stuff. So if you're from Chicago, you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, then I eventually found my way to a guitar. I think it was in 7th or 8th grade when I asked for one, you know, and I finally got one. My pop, one of his coworkers, had like the Sears like knockoff, you know, Telecaster, and it was a terrible guitar, but I learned how to tune it, whatever. And like this crappy microphone and amp, and it was from there, man. And I used that until I think I played that thing till like sophomore year of high school. And then I was like, damn, I need something real. My fingers hurt, dude.
Yeah. Your nickname's Bloody Fingers. It's just like, yo, he bleeds in every one of his sets, yo.
You can't take my fingerprints, because there's like weird line marks in them.
So you got the guitar when you were younger?
7th, 8th grade.
And then I also wanted to ask you, like, where are you in the 7 brothers?
I'm the 6th. I'm the 6th of 7.
So you're
I'm the youngest
almost
male.
Baby.
I'm the youngest male. I have a little sister after me. So yeah, I'm the youngest male. Yeah. So I have 3 older brothers, 2 older sisters, and 1 younger sister.
What was that like? Like, what was it like being the baby boy?
Man, I got special treatment because I'm later on down the line. You know what I mean? And so,
parents were tired, yo. You know, they were like, nah, go ahead and go to the party, yo. Like, it's all good.
Exactly. Yeah. We could trust. Yeah, whatever, man. We've been through it. We've seen it all. You know, how bad could it be? So I think they were a bit more laxed with me, and that allowed me some quiet time to myself. I mean, so I was out with my friends all the time. You know what I mean? And, you know, when the sun would go down, you know, my mom would send my brother Roberto to go get me at my friend's house, whatever. We'd be playing games and video games, whatever. Yeah. And so I was still cared for, right? But I was allowed some freedoms, I want to say, you know, some time to be with my friends and do what I wanted to do. So
in your childhood, what did you see growing up that you wanted to change? And it doesn't have to be within you. It could just be the world.
Yeah, there was a lot of violence, you know. I did see, you know, growing up, a lot of violence, you know, that affected my family directly. It's a little like vulnerable. It's a little personal to speak in great detail about it. But I saw like family members get hurt, you know what I mean? Physically in fights, get jumped, that sort of thing, get in trouble, you know, with the law, that sort of thing. And, you know, when you're growing up, you don't know better. You just think that's the way of the world, but you feel some type of way about it and you know it's wrong because it feels wrong, you know? Mm-hmm. So in my small heart, in my small mind, I wanted there to be a peace. I didn't want the conflict. I knew that much. I didn't know how to stop it. I'm too small. I don't know. I'm too young to know the difference. But I knew in my heart something was wrong because you feel it. You know what I mean? So, man, to answer that question, I'd have to say, man, there was, I could do without the conflict. I could do without that. And so, you can't do anything but watch, you know, when you're a kid. And, yeah, it wasn't like family on family. It was always outside, you know, like neighbors or, you know, Chicago, bro, gang violence. Fights,
oh yeah,
you
for
know
sure,
what I mean?
Bro, for sure.
And it's crazy. So,
I mean, I grew up in Little Village, man. I know that I grew up on the border between two gangs, and so you would hear on the boulevard all the time. You'd hear the echoes of the gangbangers calling each other. You know what I'm saying? Calling each other out, like, "Yo, come on out. Let's do this." And so be outside playing soccer and just seeing everything happen.
Or we'd be in the middle of gang fights, like you know, playing sports at the park. You know what I mean? Just there's a bottle flying and it crashes to the ground and you're like, what was that? You turn around and dudes are chasing each other. You know, it's like, what is happening?
Yeah.
You know, and it's frightening for a second, but you know, you kind of get used to it. It's strange, right? It's
for
strange.
sure. And you learn how to navigate it. Like you learn when you start hearing those whistles, you're either going to go inside or you're going to try to see what's going to happen and then potentially be part of it.
That's where I would walk the other way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. How did you stay away from that? How did you, like, what led you away from that?
To answer your question though, even in grade school, sports and like, yeah, the love of music before I started playing an instrument, that's what kept me, like I said, on the straight and narrow. Yeah. Right. I wasn't interested in doing anything else because it seemed wrong. It felt wrong. Right. So by the time I got into high school, I hadn't found hip hop until, I want to say like the tail end of sophomore year. Yeah. Really. Because again, I got a guitar at 7th, 8th grade. So I'm learning to play guitar. I'm playing guitar music.
Yeah. Like rock.
Right. A little bit more of rock. By the
Blues
time.
And stuff, yeah.
Well, yeah, I would say like the first songs I learned are like Metallica or like Nirvana stuff, right? Okay. Like Pearl Jam, right? That sort of thing, because that's what was hitting at that time. But I found hip hop later, but not before I discovered punk rock, and that was even sort of an angular, expressive art, you know, and that was just emotional, you know, as opposed to musical. It was music, but it was more emotion. And then when I discovered hip hop, not too long after that, punk rock, you know, I felt like they were the same thing. It was an emotional music, you know. It was subversive. It was rebel music. Oh yeah, but it sounded different, you know what I mean? But it was the same concept, and that's where my mind lit up about music as I was writing songs. I'm like, dog, this is all expression, you know, and these things can live together. And bands at the time were blending both things. And that's actually the genesis of a lot of bands like Rage Against the Machine or like Beastie Boys. You would listen to one of those records, you would hear punk rock and hip hop, and then the sonic blend in between of all those things. So it was like, anything's possible. You know what I mean? This was before all of the smartphone streaming.
Oh yeah, for sure, man.
You know what I mean? Like you had to go and buy a CD, bro, and like listen to that, buy a tape and front and back, because that's your only tape. Boom, boom.
Yeah, in New York, it was just like any of the hip hop acts that got out of the Bronx, that got out of Brooklyn, that got out of, those boroughs and went to Manhattan, were doing it through punk rock. So the punk rockers already had the clubs there, and they were just like tag teaming. And so there was definitely like a cross paths of those things.
Definitely, bro. I see that.
And so it's interesting that you did it here in Chicago. So that was happening in New York, and just that it was melding together in Chicago, and not necessarily like super visible like it was in New York.
Yeah. I mean, definitely. I remember listening to a tape of this band. They were called the Square Roots, and the record was called Organics, and it was a live band hip hop act.
Yeah.
And I was just like, yeah, perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's when like shit really started to, I don't know, anything was possible. So in Chicago, we were already jamming and doing things, whatever rock, angular or not, or beats. We just started doing what we felt and being influenced by hip hop and rock and all that stuff. Man, you just put it all together,
Yeah, and they're beasts, man. Like Black Thought is crazy. What were your high school years like? The development of becoming a person that was like, yo, I want to be a musician.
Music, yeah. Well, so coming out of grade school, I was the only one who really got an instrument to play guitar, right? We would all sing, after, whatever, playing basketball or football, whatever, we would sing like R&B a cappella stuff, like, Shy, If I Ever Fall in Love. We probably sounded terrible. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We should sit in my front hall and do that with my little shitty mic and amp. And I remember my brother came in once. He's like, would you just stop? Either way, so I got the guitar. So I get to high school. I spend all freshman year looking for someone to play with. I don't find that person, bro. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, whatever, man. I'm still jamming, bro. I got my Guitar World magazine subscription. I'm learning to play all the tunes. Whatever.
Oh man, you're a nerd, dude. You nerding.
I was a geek.
Nerding out.
I was a geek for this, man. I was like, music is my life. Boom. I love this, because it gave me like something for myself, man. It was like a therapy before I knew what therapy was. It was the way I passed my time. It was fun. I was learning something, and I could play stuff on the radio. It was cool. My brother used to challenge me. My brother Jay used to challenge me. He's like, play this Caifanes song or this Maná song or Soda Stereo song. He used to be like, if you could play this, I'll give you $10.
Ooh.
So he'd play the song, right? And then he'd be like, all right, so here's the CD or here's the tape. You got one day. So I'd sit there and figure it out, bro. Right?
Yeah.
I get my $10, and he'd be like, all right, you're doing good,
That's what's up.
Either way, so by the time I get to sophomore year,
that's like super motivational though, man. Like, what brother was that again?
Jaime
hooked you up with that, dude.
I think he did, bro.
Because put that little seed in you, like, would you have done it if $10 wasn't part of the deal? Like, I'm pretty sure that made you a little bit. They gave you that little extra, like, I'm gonna challenge myself. Like, yo, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah, it was the challenge that got me up to it, because he would get a spark in his eye, like, can this little dude do it? First of all, right? Second of all, he was exposing me to all the Spanish rock.
Yeah.
Maná, Caifanes, Soda Stereo. Dude, and I was listening to that, trying to figure it out on guitar, because they're guitar-based, like, bands. And I'm listening to the records, and I'm, wow, this is different. It's not like the English stuff, right? They got their own style. Yeah. Because like they start mixing cumbia, and they start mixing like reggae, and they're doing like, punk, in the Spanish style. And I'm just like, oh, this all makes sense. So yeah, he did hook it up, bro. He challenged me in a way that I needed to be challenged, because
for sure.
Guitar World magazine is just teaching me all the English songs, and popular English stuff. So.
And you were going to Mexico too, so you were getting it from there. Like that's where I got my rock en español. Yeah, man. So you were vibing through all those scenes.
Yeah. So getting through and finally finding someone to create music with, to play live music with. It was sophomore year, and I met this cat Juan Lugo, and he became like my music homie, my music partner, right? And so we started to jam and play in bands together. And we play together to this day, bro. We play together in ESSO, and we actually formed a band after the Lovers in Arms group called Jugo de Mango. And bro, it's just like we together, he and I have done our 10,000 hours. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
And so it's like a language we speak with each other. And forever love to that cat, man. But I think us finding each other, I might be speaking too soon, but at least for me, finding him and being able to share that passion musically, I think was a turning point. That was a turning point to have a brother to do that with. He taught me how to solo, bro. You know what I mean? I was like, how are you making it sound good and play those notes? He goes, it's a scale. Look. I was like,
Okay.
oh shit. And that changed my world.
So what does he play? He plays
guitar.
he plays percussion.
Well, we both started playing guitar, right? And then like the evolution of us is like we start learning other instruments. So he played guitar and percussion we played guitar together, and we would switch off guitar and bass in a lot of our bands coming up. We had a band called Tot Wall. We had a band called The Cop Outs. We had a band, those were the two main ones. But we had Freeform Sessions, where it was all like live band hip hop. And we did a lot of guitar and bass and congas and drums. We would just switch on and off. So we would learn stuff, you know? And, but yeah, in the ESSO, he jams whatever, bro. He's an MC, he's a percussionist, he's a guitar player, he's a bass player. It depends, you know? That's
dope, man, that you guys were so passionate, even like learning other instruments.
Well, man, when it comes to like producing your own music, and then, I mean, this is before you had loops. Like, you had to play that, you know what I mean? You couldn't even sample it because it was on a tape 4-track or a digital 4. You got to play through it. So you got to lay down your drum track. It better be good. You better keep a rhythm.
Yeah, for sure.
Put down your bass.
There was no punch-ins.
Well, no, not really. Not really. I hadn't even learned how to do that yet. But yeah, all the parts, guitar parts, the keyboard parts. Oh, let me start to play some keyboard, you know, here and there. But, you know, learn what you can and make it sound as good as you can, you know, because, you know, it's for you first. But if you catch someone's ear, that's dope too. You know what I mean?
You were probably the first person my age that was like, yeah, I master. You know what I'm saying? I was just like, man, what? I was like, yo, let me sit down with you.
What sort of gear do you have?
Yeah, let me sit down and see how you do it. And you were just like, I don't know. It was like, it was a very specific question that I didn't know how to answer. And I was just like, I guess I'm never going to learn how to master, man.
Oh, gee, bro. I think in my mind, I don't know. The first time I bought a CD burner, and this was not on a computer. This was a CD burner where you can make, you know, you put one CD in one tray and a blank CD in the other and make a copy. And you had a volume dial, which made you had a meter, and you could see when it's at 0 and when it's red and when it's peaking and when it's not. So I would sit there for every song and I would hold the meter and adjust it. I was like a human compressor, bro. I didn't have a compressor.
Yeah.
And I would just sit there until, like, you know, it was on 0 as much as possible. Mm-hmm. And I would do that over and over until it sounded even, right? And it sounded loud enough, because I wasn't competing with radio levels, right? Little did I know the radio stations had like 5 compressors on everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, bro, it's been like a crazy dope journey. But damn, how much time did we spend, you know, in front of gear trying to make music? A lot of time, bro.
Yeah, for sure, man. For sure.
So
yeah, when I was younger, in high school, like sophomore year, I was able to get a job. And it was by Belmont and like Clark.
Oh yeah, and alley. That's where the old Guitar Center was, by Dunkin' Donuts.
By the Army surplus store.
Our favorite shop.
Yeah, you'd get some crazy ass knives there and nunchucks and shit. Because I was bombing, you know what I'm saying. So if somebody came up to me, they were gonna get a nunchuck to the grill. You know what I'm saying. So it's just like we had the nunchucks that used to like telescope.
Oh,
you'd be like,
yeah.
And all of a sudden you had nunchucks.
Yeah, my brother had those. Yeah, yes, he did. Yeah.
But yeah, man. So I used to sit down with some kids that went to the Art Institute.
each record that I've been a part of, I feel like is my story at that time. So eventually, and this is fast forwarding through kind of a lot, when that project came to an end, it was okay because the content is there, right? And the content is there. If you put it out, you can't feel bad about it, right? So whether the band survives or it doesn't, it's like, hey, the music's there. I had started a band and ended a band so many times, right? Over the course of the years, I don't think a lot of them were like, okay, this is, I'm going to end this. It just sort of dissolves for whatever reason. And so the concept for me now is like, man, the music's greater than what I think it takes for the music to happen. So I'm more about the community now. I'm more about building a community than I am about a band. I'm going to build a band here. So if one band member can't continue on for whatever reason, you have to let the music continue, because it's not about anyone. It's not about me. It's about a movement. It's about a feeling. It's about, bringing people together, G. You know what I mean? Like that's the end result, right? That's what it's for. Now, me as a songwriter, as a creator, like I enjoy the process. That's where I live, in the process of it. So when there's a record that's done, I'm done. You know what I mean? I'm going to push it, right? I'm going to try to share it. I'm going to play shows behind it and all that. And I feel comfortable with that. That is the process, right? It never ends. But every day is a new start. Every show, like you do it again. And I think there's fulfillment in that. And so that's the way I look at it, right? So I have no regrets over, something that may have ended a band, or no regrets over like, hey, I put this out, oh, am I proud of it right now? Could I have done it better? That doesn't matter, because that's where I was. I'm here now.
That's very liberating, man.
Super liberating. I'm so like free of it because, man, don't get me wrong. I got a lot of things that live on a hard drive that have never seen the light of day. But it's because at the time I wasn't ready. So if at the time you're ready, I would suggest any aspiring musician or producer or whatever, put it out and move on and create the next thing, because you're not the same person, you were 10 years ago or 20 years ago, whatever. You will always keep growing. And every time you put out a project or a piece of music or a single demo, that is you. That's a marker, right? And so I learned to look at it like that very early on, because there are tapes out there that I made. There are burn CDs out there. They exist, you know what I mean? And that's good to put something physical out there. Now with the internet, bro, it'll live forever until, the global EMG or EMP goes off and everything shuts off. It'll live on a hard drive somewhere. Yeah. And that's cool, man. And so when it comes to like, oh, how does it feel to have had a certain project end? It's like, hey, that's life.
It's a natural progression.
Gee, everything will come to an end. What goes up must come down, you know? And so you got to stand tall with your history and be proud of it and continue forward, because you can't go back, bro, So
were you ever faced with the proposition to live, quote unquote, like a normal life, like a 9-to-5 life, and do music? And if so, like, what was that decision like for you?
That was I'd have to say that's popped up a few times for me, you know what I mean? But I find that I have given the 9-to-5 a chance a few times, to make better money, to create a better life, right? To like, quote unquote, fit in, right? Because you always, there's doubt. Everyone self-doubts. Getting through that doubt, that's the journey. That's what's worth it. But every time I tried this, I would be sitting at, whatever the job was, and I wouldn't stop thinking about music, bro. I'd be sitting there writing lyrics when I shouldn't have been, right?
Yeah.
Like my mind was not on my job, no matter what it was. And that was telltale. That was like, all right, let me just stop here. I know perhaps at some point I'll be able to focus on something else. But right now I got to do music, and I got to find a way to make it like valuable. I have to find a way to live off of this. So it was the turning point for me when in my mind I said, okay, So I'm working 40 hours a week at this job to make money. What if I worked 40 hours a week in music? How much can I make? Can it be equal? Can it be more? Is the enjoyment worth the trade-off if I'm making less?
Quality of life.
What am I going to do? That's when I said, all right, I'm going to do music full time, whatever it takes. And so I started like, okay, let me book like these evening things, and let me play at this restaurant. Okay, all right, well, maybe do a weekly out of this or a bi-weekly, right? Okay, cool. This is a set thing. I'm making a certain amount of money with these cats doing live music. Can I do it somewhere else again? Maybe. Okay, cool. So I got a second client. End up getting more nightly, like weeklies, right? Next thing I know, like a year and a half later, and this is mostly out of like playing live shows and people seeing you, and then like having the confidence to go and make relationships. I started having work Thursday, Friday, Saturdays, and then, you know, one of those days being, a rehearsal day for those nights. And then you play a festival on the weekend as well. And then you're recording music the other times, and maybe put out a record and see if you can make money like that. Go on the road and then make money. When you're on the road, you make money with every show. And if you have records to sell, you'll make more money. And if you have t-shirts to sell, you'll make more money, right? So navigating that, like, and getting your business hat on.
Yeah, for sure.
That really like got me to a better place.
The merch is where it's at.
Merch is good, but you can't sell merch unless you put on a good show.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, so you got to book the show, you got to play a good show, right? And then you got to like have the merch, right?
Yeah.
Which is an investment, right? So
hire the person that's going to be there at the merch table or while you're playing.
Or you hustle to the merch table after the show.
After the show. You're
right,
like,
right.
Open up the boxes real quick.
Or yeah, a dedicated band member does the merch, right?
Yeah.
Needless to say, like, I couldn't do this all myself, but I think having the plan and putting the plan in action really is what made it happen. I had a lot of help along the way, like bookers who helped me, introducing me to new venues. I mean, there's so many heads that make Chicago work, right? And so, and I'm just one little part of it, but I was able to work it out in such a way where I'm like, all right, man, this is mine. I won't even call it a 9-to-5 because I enjoyed it so much. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When people say 9-to-5, I think it carries a connotation of like, I'm trapped, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
So
you're in that, like, everybody imagines like a cubicle.
Right. Yeah. The
like
9-to-5 is a cubicle. Like,
downtown.
Like I'm in front of a screen, and you know what? I was in a place in my life where I was lucky enough where I could like take the chance. You know what I mean? Like I didn't have any like outright crazy responsibilities that I had to take care of. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I got a lot of close partners that didn't have that opportunity. Are so talented, but couldn't like say, all right, well, I'm going to give it my all and try this.
Yeah. I got kids
for
man.
my life. Right. Whatever it may be. And, you know, I got to take care of family, even if it's not kids.
For
or,
sure.
you know, I got like X, Y, and Z that I got to put first. And so I consider myself like very lucky to even be able to take that chance, you know?
Yeah.
So I give gratitude to the energies that be to afford me this opportunity to just be in this position. And, you know, being raised the way I was, I'm pretty cut out for it, bro. You know, I've been pretty cut out for it up to this time. So,
I mean, your brother was challenging you, man, like from then.
And they were feeding me new music. They were feeding me alternatives, you know what I mean, to what I was hearing that I was already absorbing. And then just the dual lives and, you know, soaking it all in. Like I was like a little sponge, bro, taking it all in. And then my geekiness, like I would write a lot, you know what I mean? So, I would just geek out on content, you know, on stories, on rhyme, you know what I mean? It's been huge to me. And then being bilingual and what that meant to me, and finally learning to like trust my culture and write in Spanish. That took a long time, bro. You know what I mean? I would write in English for the longest time.
Yeah.
And then finally like, man, you know what? It feels better to sing in Spanish for me. It does.
Yeah. Does it?
It does.
What about it feels better to you?
I don't feel like it's
like the cadence.
Well, yes, but I feel like it it comes more naturally for me. Like when I'm singing, I feel better when I sing in Spanish. I don't know why, bro. Actually, I think it's just a feeling that I get, or it's truer to like my inner self somehow. Because speaking English is kind of foreign to me. I'm 6 or 7. My brothers and sisters are speaking to me in English. I'm learning English in school, but with my parents, always Spanish, right? So there was like this feeling of tradition, this feeling of like origin, you know, with Spanish, you know. And then a lot of my experience in Mexico was when I was a kid. So it's like almost like I feel that innocence, you know, when I speak Spanish, because that was like I was just chilling with my cousin and talking to my aunts and my grandparents in Spanish. And then I come back to the States and see all this violence in English. I don't know, maybe that has something to do with it, but yeah, Spanish feels good to me, man. It feels good. It feels real to me.
And so ESSO has Spanish songs, no?
Yeah, so we started playing like as an instrumental, like Afro, beat, funk, experiment, like kind of like a jam. In jazz music, you have your band that plays and then you take solos. You're talking to yourself musically. You're having a conversation musically. And I just wanted, you know, jazz, people don't really dance to jazz, but funk, yes. And Afro beat, yes. And it was like with our house music, you know, background, you know, we were clubbing. Yeah. By the time we were in mid-high school and out of high school. And the concept of having those jazz-like structures where you do a head and then everyone has their solo time, and then you do a bridge and then go back into the head and then the song's over, but with funk, with like Afrobeat, with like danceable like influence in there. And then really wasn't doing too much Spanish music at the time. My work in Jugo de Mango and some work in Los Mineros, Juan and I were writing a lot of Spanish music, but it was like always intermixed with English. And it wasn't like, hey man, we're going to make people dance. You know what I mean? Whereas ESSO was like, this is a dance party for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely different from Lovers in Arms.
Oh, no doubt. So that was like indie rock, right? Yeah. And Frequency Below was like indie rock. And, you know, that's where it's like, there is no dance floor. It's more like, how creative can you be and make it sound good? You know, how alternative, right? How creative can you come up with something totally new and still like catch someone's ear? You know what I mean? Yeah. It wasn't like, let's juke, you know, let's fucking.
No, yeah, it's like when you go to those parties or those concerts, like everybody's just standing there listening to the music.
Right.
It's just like there's a beauty to that, right? Like when you listen to classical music, you just sit there and you're just like, oh man, Vivaldi.
Right. There's an appreciation for the music. Like I love like shoegaze, right? That's some cool ass shit. Shoegaze, fools are straight looking at the ground playing that shit, right? Yeah. Shoegaze, right? They're looking at their shoes. Nice. But down the line, like and listening and opening my mind to more of like, you know, like for instance, like Fania, where you would have like this big dance band party and then there's group singing. That really opened up my mind, bro. I was like, wow, that we could put some messages in here and just keep it be a big jam. You know what I mean? And then the further on, like we got with ESSO, the more experiences we had with audiences and just like the synergy that happened there and like learning what our forte was, learning what our strengths were and our niche, and starting to write for that. Like going on tour, bro, you meet a lot of people and you see like how your music affects them, and you want to stay effective and you want to continue to like not only please yourself but also like move an audience, bro. You know what I mean? Yeah. So as the records progressed and we were experimenting more with like, we were already messing with like dance music in all of its forms, and then starting to really see what like reggaeton and cumbia and like hip hop and like samba and how all those things blend, and those are Latin rhythms, man. You know what I mean? And if you can incorporate them and do something creative and still have a message with your lyrics in there, I was like, this is the bread and butter. You know?
I mean, when you said when you said Fania, like it totally clicks, right? Because
Makes
Fania
sense.
was all about messages, right? Like Willie Colon.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
They
Like,
had some dope stuff, bro. Yeah, man. I got some records that blew me away, man. And I, you know, they were a lot of good time stuff. In terms of the lyrics, there's a lot of gozadera, goza, like have a good time. It was their release, you know.
Yeah.
In the clubs that they were doing, and at the time that they were doing it, it was groundbreaking. But I didn't know about Fania until pretty later. I mean, I knew about Celia Cruz, bro. You know, I knew about Ruben Blades, right?
Yeah.
But going back to like what Hector Lavoe was doing,
Yeah.
and yo, whoa, you know, I was just like, that really blew me away in that next chapter of my life. You know what I mean?
You know, when I discovered Fania was at Borders, messing around with the the CDs. Like you'd scan the CDs and like listen to them.
Yeah.
Dude, I would just be like, yo,
cool, man.
What?
I had a similar experience, man, with Buena Vista Social Club at
Ooh,
Borders,
yeah.
bro. And like when they did their whole collection, and you had Eliades Ochoa and you had Ruben Gonzalez and my favorite Barbarito Torres and the Ibrahim Ferrer and Compay Segundo, they were inundating me right out of high school, bro. But it was so far. Like I was still in my city world. I couldn't understand what that music was when I was listening to it at the like sort of tail end of high school. I was like, damn, this shit is hot.
Yeah.
I can't decode it. I don't know about these rhythms yet. It took me some years to get there, right?
Yeah.
It's the same thing that happened when I first started playing guitar. And one of my mentors, he didn't even know it. He was just this older kid named George, who showed me my first Metallica riffs and shit. He was like, you listen to Hendrix? I'm like, Hendrix? So I listened to some Hendrix and I didn't get it. I'm like, man, this sounds messy. I don't get it. I don't like it, George. You know, he's like, you will. I don't know when it happened, but it was after like maybe a year later that I listened to Hendrix again. And I'm like, oh my God, this is the shit. This is dope, you know? And so I wasn't ready for it at a certain time, but you know, sometime later I was ready for it. And then I got into like all types of stuff like Stevie Ray Vaughan. Wes Montgomery blew my mind out of high school, bro. Wes Montgomery is like, again, I couldn't conceive of it, and I wasn't exposed to it, you know, in high school. The way I wish I was, man. You know, we didn't have music classes, man. You know?
Nah?
Bro,
Where did you go to high school, man?
I went to Lane Tech, right?
Okay.
All right.
But you didn't have a music?
They had a music program which I didn't choose.
Ooh.
Like out of grade school.
Damn, for real, bro?
Time out.
Hold up, bro.
Okay. Here's a little snag. Out of grade school, right? You know, when you're selecting your
Major.
area of study, right? Major. Yeah. I didn't know what to pick, and I was sort of afraid to pick music and art. I was afraid to. And I asked my older sister, Susie, who's like, yo, she's like my life. Like, wow, she changed my life, like just with who she is. I was, you know, with all the trust I had in her, I was like, hey, what should I choose? She goes like, well, let me see what your options are. I think you should do math and science.
Ooh. Treated.
So I did that, man. And so I didn't
today.
Yeah, I didn't do the music program.
Wow.
I wasn't in the band. I didn't do art classes. I was doing geological earth sciences. I made it, you know, it's chemistry and all. It was a tough road, bro, for a creative kid.
But it made you who you are, you know? Right.
Okay, I'll accept that because
it made you fight for it.
Yes, I think that might be the better point. It made me really yearn for my creative time, right? It made me like really want to pursue something that wasn't math and science. Man,
that kind of reminds me of like when I was becoming a teacher. So I was going to college. I was ready to like declare that I wanted to do education, secondary education, and then you have to do a double major when you're a teacher. So you do secondary ed or elementary ed, and then you do like history or you do science or whatever, right? And so I have a friend that was part of 500 Nations. He moved to Arizona, had a baby out there and stayed out there. His name's Mav, or Rick, his real name, but his name is Mav. He does some really good music out there. And so his mom was like a principal that started working at central office, which is like where all the CPS heads work. And so I was just like, yo, you know, I'm going to be a teacher, you know, and I don't know, like right now they need like science teachers, they need math teachers. What kind of teacher do you think I should be? Or like, I was kind of like, that's what I asked her. And she was like, well, what do you like doing? I was like, well, I like making art. She's like, then be an art teacher. I was like, you must be crazy, lady. Like, there are no art jobs, man. As a matter of fact, right now, they're cutting all these programs. Like 2005, where it was just like, they started cutting out all these programs. And I was just like, yo, it's going to be hard. She was like, you're going to be doing this for a really big portion of your life. You might as well do what you love to do. And you're going to beat everybody out because you're going to be passionate about what you do. That was the best advice that I could ever have. But I wish I would have just like dove. There's a part of me that's like, damn, what would have happened if I would have just like really hit emceeing hard as hell? But the one thing that did it for me was my mom got cancer in 2006. And she passed away. And so it was just like I stepped away from the scene. And when I came back and I was all right, like I had to go through my mourning process. And it was just like rough because you see your hero kind of just broken down. It was just like all the faces had changed. So hanging out till 3 o'clock in the morning to meet people wasn't an option anymore. You know what I'm saying? And it was just like, I felt like that time that I had to give, like that freedom that you had was like, very ephemeral at that time. It was just like it was running out for me.
Yeah, I had a similar experience, man, actually, and that was a very big turning point. My pop, he passed of cancer as well, and he struggled with it for years. He passed in 2013, and you know, that's when I really got serious, man. You know what I mean? I was like, man, life is too short, and he always supported me in my music. And, you know, so then I started to dedicate my performances to him, you know, and just in my own heart, in my own head, you know, and I said it out loud on the mic several times, and it gives me strength. But that was a turning point of seriousness for me. And, you know, I did stop going out and being social, you know what I mean? I started to focus more and, get I want to say like my organization together, really, like, starting a band is an organization. You know what I mean? Being a producer is an organization. Like I want
They're separate jobs,
bro. You got to wear all the hats. You know, I feel like I got a lot of hats, you know, and I've had a lot of hats, but at that point when I lost him, I was like, wow, man, I can't mess around anymore. I can't call this, you know, an escape. This is who I am. This is not me, you know, being the alternate version of me. And then I wake up tomorrow and I'm a different version just to get off of work and then be that other version that I really like. This is me. So let me be as professional as I can be. You know what I mean? I'm not going to mess around. I'm not going to waste my time or anyone else's time. And I'm not going to let anyone waste my time. You know what I mean? And so I started to take myself a little bit more seriously with this. And yeah, man, I think, yeah, I often think, oh man, you know, is this a good way to spend my time? And I think it is. And I think you have to get to that point where you realize that you want to be serious in how you spend your days. And I think that's the biggest change. That was a huge turning point. When you have that sort of loss and you ask yourself, you know, what am I doing? Why am I doing it? Is it worth it? And then when you get your answer, what is worth it, then you attack it. And it becomes like what you're known for, you know?
No, yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah.
Like when my mom passed away, it's like you figure out that life isn't guaranteed, right? From an instant, like she got cancer. Well, she was a chain smoker, and she smoked so much that like I was speaking to your wife the other day.
Yeah.
That like I went to high school and like deans would stop me and be like, yo, you got to come with me to the office. Like you've been smoking. And then call my mom and it wasn't me. It was like all the smoke in my crib that went through my clothes, you know?
Yeah.
And so it was that bad. And so I remember having conversations with her like, yo, there's going to be a day. There's going to be a day. And kind of like just being a jerk to try to get her to stop. But I never expected it to actually like happen.
Yeah.
And when it happened, it was just like, it was wild, man.
That's funny, man. My wife, Rebecca, shout out Rebecca. She used to break her mom's cigarettes and throw them out.
She probably hated that, bro.
She used to break the cigarettes, and she was fighting the good fight to try and, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just keep sort of a healthier, I don't know, so kind of support by eliminating the option of smoking. I don't know, bro.
For sure. I mean, I'm pretty sure mom was pissed, dude.
I mean, you got to do what you can if you love somebody, right? Even if it hurts.
For sure.
Goodness gracious.
But it was just like, man, I saw how my mom fiended for it. Like she used to smoke a pack a day. So, you know what I'm saying? Like by the end where it was just like, it was pretty rough.
Yeah.
They hiked up the taxes here in Illinois. So she had to like, whenever she went to Mexico or to Puerto Rico, she would get boxes and then bring them back because they were cheaper.
Oh man. And those tigres out there didn't have filters, bro. my grandpa, he did the same thing. You know what I mean? He smoked all his life, lived to like reach his 90s. You know what I mean? And smoking cigarettes with no filter, bro. Yeah. I guess they might be healthier, no additives, the way they made them back in the day. Maybe. I don't know. What do I know? I don't smoke cigarettes, bro.
But let's get back to your dad, because I think that's like I mean, that's an impactful moment that like changes and reverberates your whole life. It shakes your foundation.
Yeah.
On the surface level, it made me focus on my music. I figured out that life isn't guaranteed, right? And that if I'm going to dedicate something, I'm going to really attack it and be 100 about it. What did it do to you creatively? And how did it affect you personally? Not just even musically. What was that like? What was that grieving and mourning like, if there was?
You know, I spent so much time with him, legit, like through the years, knowing that he was suffering, that I knew.
How many years, by the way?
Man, he suffered with it for like 8 years on and off.
Okay.
You know, he was in remission for a time, and then it hit him hard again.
Okay.
And then remission, and then, you know what I'm saying? That sort of deal.
Fighter, man.
Bro, he fought, no doubt. So yeah, I spent a lot of time, as much as I could. I spent some time away, like after high school. I moved away. I went to the West Coast, San Francisco, you know. So I stayed out there, studied jazz, lived with heads, lived a life very different from my Chicago life. I learned a lot of things out there that I couldn't have learned here or in Mexico or anywhere else. And being out there, I realized like how important my family was to me because they weren't around, right? So I start to miss them on holidays in a different way. And, you know, it's like being so far away, I was like, man, you know, our time is numbered. Our days are numbered. So when I eventually came back to Chicago, that's when I became friends with my parents. Prior to leaving, they were just my parents, my authority figure. Yeah. The people who were trying to keep me down, you know,
for
from like my freedoms, or trying to tell me what I didn't want to hear. I was inexperienced. I don't know what's right for me, and I just want to do my thing and be young and party like any other young kid.
Yeah, they didn't trust you yet.
I mean, I don't think that I don't know about trust. I'm sure that they thought I had a lot to learn and I didn't know what was best yet. Yeah. You know, but by the time I went out and had my personal experiences and I came back, that's when I became friends. And so my pop and I would spend time together playing cards, playing pool, and just talking, man, just sitting there and talking. He was hard of hearing, so I had to get real close to him, right? And so we spend a lot of time together. And so by the time cancer took him finally, I knew that I had done everything I could, right? And so it was like, it hurt. Don't get me wrong. It hurt, but he's at peace now. You know what I mean? He knows that we did everything, and to spend time with him. And, you know, I feel very like, I'm filled with gratitude just having had that opportunity to do that. So in terms of the mourning process, it was rough, but I did have the support of Rebecca, which was on like, whoa, I don't think I would have gotten through the way I did without her, for sure. She was a rock and strength for not only me, but my family. and I don't think the music was affected too much. I had already like dedicated myself to a music that I think he didn't understand it. He didn't understand his music, but he could be proud of what I was doing.
Yeah.
And that gave me strength too, bro. So yeah, the mourning process wasn't too crazy, man. I want to say that I live my life, and we're not even talking about music, but I live my life in service, like to my family and to those that I love. And I think he did the same, and I learned that from him. So he'd be proud of that. And I think that was the biggest change in my personal life. But yeah, losing him definitely is like, oh man, put your best foot forward all the time, and make a plan and work that plan, and like, you know, be reliable and show up and do the work. Like he's like the American dream, bro. You know, he came over here. Again, I'm first generation, all of us, right? He's an immigrant. My mom's an immigrant. And they worked their lives and provided for their family and worked their way up and bought a house. And that's the American dream, bro. They lived it.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not possible now. It's too expensive. You can't do that. I don't know that you can. Things are really crazy right now, but he and she did sort of live the American dream, bro.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and when they came around that time, we were an industrial nation. We were still creating things. So those jobs were available for people. And so you could work in a factory and get a house.
That's what he did, bro.
Yeah.
That's exactly what he did.
And there are no factories anymore.
Not really.
And the only things that are working are iRobots.
You know it, bro. iRobot.
I just did a workshop with Brother Ali during the pandemic. I guess he was sharing his knowledge, right? Like a lot of musicians were kind of in a hard place. So what he did was he made like these workshops, these writing workshops, and then he made this other workshop that was about like industry and like how to engage the industry. And it was just like, man, if I would have had that workshop back then, like known the percentage of like how much you pay people, how much you can get for a show, like what you have to look out for, like how much a tour bus costs, like that was all stuff that he was going through. I never learned how to do that. You do that. That's amazing that you learned all of these hats. How do you do it?
Man, so best way to answer that is when you do something for a long time, right? You learn little by little. So damn, that's a loaded ass question. But
I mean, because it's super amazing.
Well, it's a step-by-step thing, right? So it's like, all right, so you start, right? You're the songwriter, right? And then you write the song and then you record it, right? You got to make it sound good. So you got to mix it. I'm not even thinking about mastering, but like you got to mix it. Once you do get it mastered, whether it's by yourself or someone else, preferably someone else, because as you just said, you learned like you're too close to it. And I learned that early on too. You have a product, right? And then you have to have art that's appealing, and you have to design something that you think is going to connect with your audience. I wasn't thinking that way either in the beginning. It's just like, I made dope art. I'm going to be creative, all right? So
people are going to love this.
I'm going to be creative. This shit is hot, right? But you're not thinking yet that's a product. You're not thinking that way. And that's okay. But at some point when you want to sell your quote unquote product, your art, I prefer to call it, man, you have to find a way to their appeal to their senses, whether that's visual or you have the good fortune of being on the radio. But there's so much more to that. Like touring, that's a whole different beast, bro, because you have to have relationships. You have to have like some connections to the outside world. You can do something like an indie Bible, which is a book that has contacts for all the clubs. This was before internet, right? Directories, really.
Yeah, for sure.
It was an indie Bible. And, there are programs now like websites like Indie on the Move where they'll connect you with like X amount of venues, right? And so you gotta put your time in, man. It's like the 10,000 hours where you go and tour and you hit little cities, and then while you're in that city doing your show, whether you like the venue or not, you hear about the better venue, right? If you gotta ask about it. Oh yeah, where else do you play? So there's a lot of social
Where's the
aspects
hot
to
spot?
it. You know what I mean? Now, if you're a group that, you know, gets picked up by a label and you have a booking agent, that's different. If you're DIY, you got to learn to do it all yourself. And, you know, now you have the tools to do that, like with websites. And like I said, the magazine in like, the Indie Touring Bible or whatever, but it was all hitting the pavement, you know what I mean? Learning to do that. The whole, you know, investing in yourself, to make money, like you have to put money in, right? You're pressing a CD. All right, bro, you're going to put, $500 in. You better be able to pull $500 out of it. So you get your money back plus 500. You got to be able to do that, at least so the music can pay for itself. So with the money that you make the next CD, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And keep reinvesting, and it'll eventually happen. So this, where I'm at right now, it's years of reinvestment, years. I've put so much time and money into it that it's like, okay, I see, and people see like what it is or what it's worth, or, you know, that there is a history to it. Right. And bro, if you really dedicate yourself to it, by the time you realize it, I think you have a pretty good footprint. You know what I mean? You have learned what all those hats mean, learned what you're worth. You know, if I get asked to do a festival, I know what I'm worth now. So it's like, okay, I'm going to ask for that amount. If they can't pay that amount, I'm not going to play it. If they can, or if it's for a cause that I believe in, I'll play a show for free if it's for a cause that I believe in, right?
Yeah.
That's why I don't like really doing shows where I have to sell tickets, bro. Really? How many shows have I played that I have to worry about bringing people? It's not really about that, man, you know? So I'd rather do shows where it's like, it's already funded and it's free to the public. You know, I want to reach like kids. I remember being a kid and seeing a band playing. I'm just like, whoa. My eyes were wide open. And
inspiring.
Dog, it's so inspiring, you know? Like I've reached, I'm not concerned about turning on the cool kids. You know, that's over and done with. It doesn't matter. You're not going to reach them anyway. Like they're on their own thing.
Yeah.
If you do reach them, cool. And if you want to reach them, that's cool too. But at some point, like you're just going to say, look, what I do in my time is valuable. So much so that I want to make this as easy as possible for everyone involved.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of programs out there, right? There's a lot of money out there. And if you could just value yourself enough and I guess touch those channels and get in touch with those channels, that you'll be able to do the shows you want to do, or get your material to the right people that are interested in you. It's like finding your audience, right? Again, and knowing your worth. All those things will teach you what you need to know, but you gotta be dedicated, man. You can't half-ass it. Yeah. Oh yeah, I'll do it tomorrow, man. Oh, I know I need to do this, but for some reason you never do it. Make the time, bro. Turn off the TV, bro. There was a long time in my life where I scorned everybody that I knew for watching TV. I'm like, you're not getting anything done. That's killing your brain. For like years, I would not watch the TV or listen to radio, bro. I was just like, I'm writing my shit.
Yeah.
I'm doing my thing.
I still don't listen to the radio, man. People are like, they're like, I listen to WGCI, you know. I'm like, nah, not really, yo.
Right.
Like, I don't, because all that stuff is repeated, and it's just it's junk. It's McDonald's.
Right. Yes.
I would rather have something hearty, something soulful, something good.
That's like big business. Listen to the radio is like going to shop at Walmart. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're not gonna find anything new, really. So
just regurgitated.
You gotta kind of dig, bro. Radio is like consumerism. As a DJ, you gotta know what's on the radio, right? I didn't even like touch on that, but like that's definitely a whole pop realm that exists apart from creating music and being in a live band. You know what I mean? So
for sure, man. I mean, I went to go see Tyson the other day, and the club was definitely different, and they were vibing to some music I never heard of. But it was like everybody was on it, and it was just like mad negative music. Like one DJ was just playing some music that was just like, okay, kind of gritty, sexualized, and he was just like, all right, okay, kind of trying to vibe to it, but it was just like, it wasn't my scene, not my music, you know. And it was just like, it's interesting that people are tuned into that corporate that corporate music,
Yeah,
and that's what they know.
Yeah, I'd have to say DJs sometimes have a tricky time reading an audience. You know what I mean? Sometimes they have a tricky time reading an audience because, bro, there's so much music out there. There's so much now, like more than ever before. There's more people making music. It's easier to make music. And then, man, if you go on any streaming service, bro, oh my God. I forget the stat, but there's like thousands and thousands of songs that go up brand new every day. It's like disposable. You know what I mean?
If you had to give somebody advice, like a little kid, even an adult, like just visualize yourself, right? Like as an adult or maybe as a little kid, like what would you, if somebody was really thinking about doing music or just anything in their life, what would you tell them about pursuing their passion?
Give it your all, but be honest with yourself. You know what I mean? Sometimes we're in a place where we don't know what we want, but we know what we like, right? And so we'll pursue what we like without even thinking about if it's going to be fulfilling or in the long run or if it's the best idea or not. So I'd ask them to be honest with themselves. If it's something they really want to do and they're passionate about it, give it your all. Do it as best as you can. And try to find a mentor. Try to find somebody who does it, who can give you advice or help you or whatever. Like, it's so important, man. It's so important to have that person challenging you. You know what I mean? Giving you advice or insight or direction. That is the biggest because you'll learn so much faster. You know what I mean? You can learn all the lessons yourself, over 10 years, or you can learn in 10 weeks, you know what I mean? If you got somebody helping you. And so I would try to recommend or advise that if you're interested in something, find somebody who you can learn from and work with them and give it your all, because there's nothing holding you back except you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So having somebody to help you along is worth more than anything. Yeah, that's what I would say. And bro, you remember when you rocked the mic with us at that convention, whatever it was?
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah.
That was so much fun, bro.
Yeah, that was.
And that's like an exchange that we share. And that's actually the epitome of what I'm trying to relay right now. Just having that experience of togetherness, like making music. Like, again, it's another language, man.
No, yeah, I remember when you asked, I was just like, you want to get up on stage? I was like, I don't remember the song. I was like downstairs, like listening to the track and like doing my lyrics over and over and over again. Cause it's just like, damn, if you don't, it's like exercise. We were talking about it downstairs. Like if you don't exercise, you're going to be rusty.
You got to practice your rhyme or your passage or your lines or your beat, whatever. Practice and just be comfortable and have fun, and it'll be fine. If you're having fun, it was fine.
Yeah.
And no one cares if you fucked up on a note. If you're smiling and you're fucking everything up, that's okay. Sorry if I can't cuss on this.
No, yeah, you're good.
But if you're having fun, that's all that matters, man. And it's contagious. That's the cool thing about having fun, is it's contagious. So
yeah. Where can the audience find your music or connect with you? And
I think primarily the main outlet for me is ESSOfunk.com, and that's where I'll perform with ESSO Afrojam Funkbeat on festival stages or whatever. And it's, again, I'm trying to do it so it's always free and it's always all ages and it's always outdoors. That's what I want for that. Try to get out to as many places as we can. We've toured so much, but man, life is getting so busy. It's hard to be on the road now. You know what I mean? But yeah, to answer your question, ESSOfunk, ESSOfunk.com. And that has all the links for everywhere else. So yeah, reach out, man. We want to play some live music or jam or collaborate or something, or, just build that community, because we're only here for a certain amount of time.
All right, bro. Well, here you have it. Armando Pérez, otherwise known as Mondo, gives super, super tight hugs, and they're very long. So just make sure that you're ready for that whenever he sees you. he hugs you and he means it.
Thank you.
With
G.
that, thank you for coming, man. Thank you for coming, and thank you for letting people know your personal story. You know, like Kasha and I were talking, and he was like, Mondo. And I was like, yeah. He's like, do you know anything about Mondo? And so, you know, we definitely got to hear parts of your story that maybe people haven't heard. And so definitely inspirational, brother. And thank you for coming,
G.
man.
Thank you. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for having me, man. 500 and growing. Don't stop, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Forever, ever.
Yeah. So 500 and growing podcast. Here we go. And thank you.
500 and growing.
Podcast. Dedicated to the underdog, cause I see you. Working on your craft, getting strong, cause I see you. Ready to set it off and on, cause I see you. Correcting all that is wrong, cause I see you. Dedicated to your craft, read and study the math. Making goals and taking a stand. Original, so you trailblaze a path. In tune with your inner master plan.
500 and growing.
Podcast.
Visit 500andgrowing.com for more creative content.
Thank you for listening to the 500 and Growing podcast. Please like, share, and subscribe. We have incredible guests lined up that will be sharing how they came to be extraordinary at whatever they do. And stay tuned. Follow at 500 and Growing podcast on Instagram for updates, and also visit 500andgrowing.com for more creative content.